Hey guys, I realized I hadn't recorded in a while, so I wanted to record this video even though I'm a hot mess. So as always, this is for entertainment purposes only. Take what you need and leave the rest for someone else. So to continue on with the story, after experiencing my rock bottom, I realized that I needed to take a hard look at myself, and I realized that I was the one who was not living the life that I wanted to live. And the only one who was responsible for that was me. I made tons of mistakes and poor decisions and realized I had some growing to do. I gave myself grace and forgiveness for my past and started to take ownership of my future. I vowed to do better, to be better, and it was way overdue to take a hard look at myself and create exactly what I wanted in my daily life and what I wanted it to be. I really reflected on the lessons that I learned and really delved into accepting that the past was just that, the past, and the future was unwritten. And it was high time to figure out exactly what I wanted for my future and for me and only me on my terms. I'd spent way too much of my life looking at other people, what they wanted, how to help them, and I just realized I needed to start making choices that supported fully and truly, without worrying about what others thought or how they viewed it, frankly, just for me. Frankly, what other people thought was none of my business. So as I was off to Guanacaste, specifically, I may be saying it wrong, to a retreat run by Master Rebis, and I will connect the link in the introduction to this video. When I got there, it just took my breath away when I arrived. It was stunning. It was a stunning location, great cabins, and they were super comfortable. I say cabins, but really it just felt like little cabinas, as was usual in Costa Rica. Plenty of room, but super, super comfortable. I started with my introduction to the two masters, and they started me off with meditation. I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to talk a lot about meditation because I've talked about it in other videos. They taught me a lot about meditation. This was the beginning of the foundation of understanding there's active meditation and inactive meditation, and how do you really sit with yourself. And I can't tell you enough how much the time spent meditating at this retreat was super helpful. They started also with their retreat around mindful eating, gratitude before everything you eat, thanking the water for quenching your thirst, thanking the plants for providing you sustenance, etc., etc. Master Rebis asked me to take that concept throughout the retreat. I promised to share with you how I always felt. Let me tell you how thrilled I was at the time that I just couldn't glug the water down when I was thirsty, and instead sip it and be grateful every single time that I took a sip. I told you I was going to be authentic through this, and I was on full-on brat mode in this situation. The staff at the resort was amazing, and I was told that they'd cook you anything you wanted, so that was fantastic. As part of the discussion about mindful eating, Master Rebis said, no smoking, no coffee, any kind of nicotine or caffeine essentially blocks the energy flow. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but energy flow through your chakras, your solar plexus chakra specifically, which is located in your stomach area. It's responsible for your confidence, your self-esteem, as well as helping you feel control, etc., etc. Just a side note, as I'm sharing these concepts, it's through Shally's lens. These things were several months ago, and so I'm going to do my best to give you Shally's lens and Shally's takeaway. By no means am I saying I'm an expert. By no means am I, I'm sure I'll screw up the context on some things, so I don't want to speak for Master Rebis. So I just wanted to make that disclaimer. So honestly, I had just gotten out of a crappy experience, and I was on this journey, and coffee is something that I really like. And so just to fully admit the situation, literally the staff, the amazing staff there. I get to know them. I can't speak Spanish very well. They only spoke Spanish. I made friends with them, and they used to sneak me coffee and cigarettes, even though I knew Master Rebis could actually read it on me. I was a terrible student. I'll fully admit that. During one of the meditations that I had mentioned, I just got up midstream. Ants were biting me. Master Rebis and Astaro were literally meditating. Nothing was bothering them. And there were little red ants just climbing all the way up and down my feet, biting me. And it was terrible. And so I was trying not to interrupt the meditation for everyone, but I just couldn't stand it anymore. And so I got up. And I literally, this was after, 5 hours of meditation on the first day. I'm not sure how long it was. And I literally just broke down midstream and just started crying. I was so embarrassed. It was, when I say crying, it was just the ugliest cry you ever want to see. It was kind of 3/4 of the way through the day. And I just couldn't bring myself back. Now, keep in mind, at this retreat, I was the only one. So I had both masters, 2-on-1 learning. It was fantastic. And I just couldn't, I'm not someone who likes to cry in front. I don't cry very often. And I certainly don't cry in front of other people. And so I just said, look, I think we have to end the day. So again, I was super embarrassed. After crying my eyes out, I went down to the pond. They have a pond on property, and it was, it always had birds, and it always had a little bit of dragonflies, a little bit of butterflies. But honestly, after, I don't even know how long I cried, couple hours maybe, I just was letting it all out, everything that had happened. But after crying my eyes out, I went down to the pond and literally saw, I didn't count them, but it was like butterflies and dragonflies. And I mean, there were tons. I can't even tell you. It was just an amazing array of butterflies and dragonflies. So many that it was like Dummy's Guide to, hey, this is a symbol. Like, you couldn't miss it. You might see a couple butterflies, 3 or 4. But this day it was like, I don't even know what lots of butterflies are called, or lots of dragonflies that are called, but they were all mixed. I mean, a swarm. I don't know what else to call them. So obviously I needed to look up the symbolism later, because there were never that many, and it was pretty hard to ignore. And so what was super interesting is they meant transformation and hope and change and self-realization, which candidly was super after such a day and being a hot mess and embarrassing myself. And I mean, the masters didn't care. That was all about me and my ego. It was just amazing. It just brought me peace that night, understanding that that's, the symbols of, what the universe was trying to tell me. It was kind of a little bit of a realization. One of the other days we spent talking about, this was kind of a 101 intro to a bunch of different, I don't know what to call them, like modalities. So the next day was an introduction to shamanism, and I'm probably going to describe it a little wrong. Again, I'm looking through my lens and my snapshots of interpretations and takeaways. But here's what I took away from the day, and I can't even do this justice. But shamans are super connected to the 4 elements and are dedicated to bettering the communities around them. Again, this is my takeaway. We talked about the philosophy that how everyone in the community has talents and values that they bring, how shamans work to leverage those talents and help to develop them, no matter what they are, for the betterment of the whole community. So from my understanding in shamanism, there's no good and evil. Everything has its place. Everyone has its use. Dark and light, if we want to term it that way, in proverbial terms, are both super useful. Think of someone who, as an example, someone who is super materialistic. Again, not good, not bad. That person will be utilized in the community to teach other people fiscal discipline, for example. Someone who doesn't worry about money, but worries about kind of helping people all the time at their detriment will be balanced off by someone materialistic. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this, but you get the gist, hopefully. We also talked about, in shamanism, the brain being full of kind of biases from what you've gone through in life, for lack of a better way of saying it, and listening through the lens of your head, coming from a place of ego. So from all the things that you've experienced from a family perspective or from a societal perspective, or whatever the lens is, where you grew up, what you were surrounded by, what you know, all of that is kind of in the brain, and it comes from a place of ego. And so everything that you're hearing and processing and experiencing is going through that said perspective. So as I started learning how to move beyond, as Master Rebis told me, he liked to tease me, my monkey brain. I mean, here's the thing. My brain goes 24/7. And I was always in my head, no matter if people knew it or not. And so, he used to razz me about it all the time, and I needed to learn how to connect with my higher self and the universe and all of the things that kind of drive you to understand how to get out of your own head and out of your own way. And some of the things, and again, I'm not going to list them all, but some of the things that help with that is labeled as ecstasy, right? So joy. So things like meditation or music or dancing or whatever brings you ecstasy. And how to just slow down and just experience nature, experience signs, just like take things in and feel them instead of thinking them. And he surfaced how doing shadow work on the things that basically form your fears and reactions, and coming from low vibes, if you will, blocks this higher understanding and blocks your flow with the universe by basically erecting blockages to your abundance with self-sabotage. I think the masters would be proud of how I now show up in this world. They have no clue how much they started building the foundation of wisdom and understanding for me. As I mentioned, I was a terrible student at this time, fully transparent, terrible student. We also had some fantastic discussions around each element with, sorry, I'm sitting outside. Just wanted to let a bus go by. I'm sitting outside. Sorry about that. We had fantastic discussions around each element, doing ceremonies to celebrate each. So it really made a lot of sense to me, as being in nature with animals, being at the ocean, looking at fire, had always fed my soul, but I just never thought about it through the lens of the elements and how they affect your energy. And so it was super interesting having those discussions. Master Rebis had completed really in-depth studies in both philosophy and Gnosticism, if I'm saying it right. And so we had incredibly interesting discussions about the concepts of good and evil, the cosmic dualism, the divine spark that exists in human beings, how different philosophies affect daily lives, and how activities are governed, and so many other topics. I have to be honest, I'm going to have to send this to him. He was incredibly patient with me about having intellectual discussions. I always say I think with my MBA brain. I'm always in my head. It's going to make sense to me. I've got to research it. And he's having these, high-level philosophical discussions, even though English wasn't his first language, about the differences between the practices and beliefs, along with my typical need to take in all the different learnings and then bring them down to process them and figure out what felt true to me. And for those of you who don't know me personally, or do know me personally actually, it shouldn't come as a shock that I integrated a lot of the different beliefs into something that rang completely true to me, my gut, my core values. The next day I had an introduction to Reiki, and then, how energy worked, how physicality worked with energy. And I've got to be honest, I've had Reiki before, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong again. And I thought it was pure crap, candidly. When I did it this time, I learned about it, And then I actually had a client, if you will, trying it out on someone. It was super interesting this time because when I did it and when I was trying it out on someone, like who was my client, if you will, I guess, I could feel when my energy was at its fullest and I could feel when my energy was draining. And then it would pour out again when I kind of accessed and connected to my heart space. It felt so weird when I was running out of energy. You could feel it. It was like a kink in a hose is the best way I can describe it. And then I'd feel my energy come back when I would kind of, I'm sure it was disruptive for her at the time, kind of focus on my heart space, focus on my energy, and then come back to it and kind of give her energy. So at the end of it, we asked her for her feedback, no carte blanche, tell me how it felt. And it was so interesting to me because the time that it felt the most powerful was at her feet. That's when I was kind of in my full power after going back to my heart space. And she said, without me telling her any of that, she felt like I shot lightning up her when I was at her feet. So it was super interesting to have this experience. Not that that's my modality or not something that I probably will do a lot, but it was the first time I kind of started to understand, or maybe not understand, but believe in this kind of energy stuff and how you refill energy. A couple of days in, Master Rebis, he was stern with me a lot. Probably I was because I was a terrible student. Not stern, it's a bad way, but he's pretty direct. I am too, as you can tell. But he talked to me on a walk one day about how, I'm sure he read it on me, about how I needed to learn how to fill my own cup of love, as he put it. And he said my need to help others came from a place of a lack of self-love and needing validation or the hit of adrenaline by helping others. And let me tell you, at that time, it definitely caused an immediate reaction in me because I love to help people. And I immediately balked at what he was telling me, that he read on me, and it hit me right in the ego. And I was candidly pissed. In retrospect, in later videos, I revisit this conversation, but I'll leave it here for now. Kind of short version, he was dead right. But at the time, it was something that was just kind of like a slap in the face. He's a super nice guy, just so you know, but with me, he needed to be a little stern because I'm hard-headed. So anyway, he also assigned at the same time an exercise to me for homework at night. I was on a retreat and I didn't really want homework, but he assigned me an assignment, what brings me joy? And I was like, write it in 5 minutes, whatever. And I really, I took it seriously and sat down, and I've got to tell you, at that time, it literally stunned me that I couldn't answer it. Because as I started to sort through all the answers of what brings me joy, it literally was helping other people. Some nuances to it, but I like adventures and I like different things. But honestly, it was super, super hard. And I was stunned because I'm someone who's a happy person. I'm someone who, does a lot of different things. And so, I'll revisit this topic in later videos. But I cannot tell you how grateful I am for him calling this and also, filling my own cup of love out. Albeit I understood both of them way later in the process. We also did yoga. So I had tried yoga before, like yoga all day. Well, we didn't really do all day, and I'll tell you why. I had tried yoga before, and when I tried yoga, I actually did, and again, I know this isn't probably a popular opinion, but I used to kickbox, and then I do yoga to cool down. And so for me, yoga's super hard because probably the monkey brain, but honestly, it's not something that's kind of my thing, if you will. And so we had a whole day of yoga. And again, I was trying to be patient. Again, you see a theme with my worst student ever. I did about 5 hours of yoga, and then I was just like, all right, enough. We're not doing any more yoga. And he was super patient with me, and he's like, well, let's try it this way. And I'm like, no, done with yoga. Like, let's have a philosophical discussion because I've had enough of yoga for today. So he was super patient with me when I was done with yoga. I'll talk about it later, but I've tried aerial yoga since, and that's a blast. So apparently aerial yoga is my thing, if any yoga. We also tried astral travel through meditation. I'll talk about it a little bit more in the later videos, but it is fantastic. I can't even describe how cool it is. Again, I want to do it its justice, and so I'll talk about it later in the videos, but the short version is the other master, well, both of them actually, teaching me. I think they never admitted this candidly, but I think they let me see what they were seeing. Sorry, I almost knocked over my wine. And honestly, it was pretty incredible. As I looked at the trees, I could literally see lines of energy of the trees communicating. I could see symbols. I mean, again, I'll address astral travel later, but I just can't even describe what a great experience astral travel is. There's so many people who have helped me through this journey, and I'll talk about them throughout it, but that I'm grateful for. But these two masters are among the top. To be honest, there is so much learning that occurred over those few days that there's no way I can possibly describe it enough to do it justice. It was just an incredible experience. A quick 101 on so many topics across the spectrum of spirituality. I literally think, I'll have to ask them someday, that I was probably their most difficult student ever. And they taught me with so much patience and grace and wisdom that I'll always be grateful to them for the wisdom and the time that they share with me at the beginning of my healing journey. The couple of days went flying by, and I was sad to leave the learning an incredibly soul-feeding location. But I'll be honest, I was super happy not to have to hide my coffee drinking in the morning, because I know he could read it on me. So I felt like I was lying every morning, which doesn't sit right with me. Anyway, what I'm going to do is, as I mentioned before, is I'll leave the links to their retreats in the description box if you want to book one of them or get in touch with them. Seriously. They're amazing masters, and I'm sure all of you would be way better students than I would be. And if they were so gracious and I had so much learning as in the headspace that I was in then, I can't even imagine what someone would learn when they're not a terrible student at the time. I just can't express my gratitude enough. I'll return to one of their retreats again, and this time I vow to be a better student. Just a side note, they're also building an eco-village and searching for funding to help in the initiative, so get in touch with them if you're interested in hearing more. Again, you'll find the link down below. So until next time, have a great day.